Hey, it's me, Jimmy D, and we had a fantastic race here at Martinsville this weekend. Yes, it was rain delayed, but the show did not disappoint. We're going to talk about the finishing, the stories throughout the race, and just an overall analysis and review of this week's Martinsville race. Because, one, Martinsville never disappoints. Martinsville always has some type of fantastic hard racing throughout the race. Let's talk about this, because there was a few drivers who were constantly getting beat and banged. I mean, Ryan Newman, for instance, just had every inch of his car beat and bang across the board. People were beating on him, but he was still running top 10 there until the end when he got a flat tire and just Lightning McQueened it around the track. Early on, stage one of this race, it was very much Hendrick, Penske, and Joe Gibbs, the big three, which Hendrick being the big three is a kind of a turn of events over past years. Typically, Stewart-Haas is that one other team in the big three, but that wasn't the case. It's not the case this year. Like, it's weird because we're so used to seeing Stewart-Haas running up there. But you know what? Kevin Harvick's back must hurt because he's been carrying the team not only this year, but I mean for the past few years. But really with this year, with his new teammate, and just how much Stewart-Haas has changed over the past few years, the pressure is on Kevin Harvick, and he kind of delivered. He kind of delivered today. His driving ability really came through with the way his car has been handling, especially here at Martinsville, and he came up ultimately for a 9th place finish. He was running 6th, 7th there at the end, but his car did fade on that last restart. But still, a top 10 finish for Harvick really shows his driving ability and how he is probably one of the best drivers in the field of active drivers. And like I said, Stewart-Haas Racing was not doing that well. Harvick, he didn't really get into the top 10 until late, after that big parking lot accident on the backstretch, which is fantastic. I mean, I've already seen so many memes of that cargo ship blocking the Martinsville because Kyle Busch and Buescher got together, and Buescher kind of turned down into Busch, whether he got loose or whatnot, but he turned down. They spun sideways, blocked the entire thing. We had like a 15-16 car accident on the backstretch hitting late into this race. And the fact that the big one happens at Martinsville is kind of insane. I mean, it's almost like back in 2010 when the big one really didn't happen at Talladega in the spring. The big one waited till the next week at Texas when it was the Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon race that took Jeff out of it when that Jimmy Johnson and Gordon feud was really starting to heat up. Let's talk about Penske because, like I said, Penske, Hendrick, and Joe Gibbs were all running top 10 early on. Logano did fade for a while. Logano was fighting to stay on the lead lap, but ultimately came back for a 6th place finish. That really shows how strong those Penske cars are. And I want to talk about Logano in a second when it comes to Truex. A lot of big names early on who were about to go a lap down. I mean, like Harvick, you had Busch, you had Logano. Like, they were right there on the edge, but ultimately some very well-timed cautions came out, and they were able to stay on the lead lap. And ultimately, the field flip-flopped quite a few times. You had people who were running 15, 16, stay out, different tires. I mean, it was a strategy. It was a basic Martinsville race. Like, you've had that. It reminds me a lot of some of the, like, 2012, 2013, 2014 Martinsville races where you basically had the field split in two in strategy-wise, and depending where the cautions came, depended on who it benefited and who it didn't. This one ended very close. Hamlin and Blaney right there battling. They were side by side coming to the line to end stage one. Ultimately, Blaney got it, which, poor Blaney. What a night. What a night. Blaney ultimately late, last pit stop, money stop, gets a penalty for dragging the hose out of the pit box and does rally for an 11th place finish. But the fact that that's when they got that penalty really, really sucks. Blaney has had a penalty at the Martinsville race for like the past 3-4 races. And I love Blaney. Blaney is awesome, fantastic driver, and I want to see him win some more races because he is capable of that. But these little mistakes here and there are really costing him. Yeah, he's won one race this year, but he's ultimately should have won a couple more. A lot of very strong race cars in this race. Hamlin's car was excellent. I mean, it's also Hamlin at Martinsville. We haven't seen Hamlin run this well, really, at Martinsville since like 2009, since 2009, 2010. Like, this, Hamlin was strong. Chase Elliott was strong, and Chase Elliott won last year in the fall. But ultimately, Martin Truex got away from Hamlin, had to drive up. Now, let me talk about Truex. Truex won, almost spun out. Well, he didn't spin out. Logano almost spun him out. He caught himself off of Blaney's hood. We would not be talking about a repeat winner, at least when it comes to Truex, if it wasn't for that save. That was a fantastic save. And Truex is one of the most patient drivers ever. Logano gave him that spot. Because, one, they've had a past, especially here at Martinsville. But Truex ultimately drove away from Logano and ultimately won this race. Truex was very patient passing Hamlin. I mean, it was laps of side-by-side racing, which were all phenomenal. And it's great to see. It is honestly great to see. Let's go through the top 10, top 12, and see how our drivers finish. So, Truex Jr. comes home, first repeat winner of 2021. Chase Elliott second. Denny Hamlin third. Fourth place, William Byron. Kyle Larson fifth. Again, Hendrick Motorsports. If it wasn't for Bowman crashing in that 15 car, we probably would have seen all 4 Hendrick cars here in the top 10, if not the top 5. Joe Logano, 6th place. 7th place, Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell came through strong on one pit stop strategy with getting some tires, and ultimately able to really charge through the field. Thought he was going to have a run for the top 5, but ultimately, once another caution came out, the tires equaled out, and 7th place. Tyler Reddick, 8th place. Fantastic run by Tyler Reddick. It's good to see that 8 car in RCR really running strong. They don't run strong every week, but this is definitely improvement. Kyle Busch, 10th. That man had no front fender. That car was fantastic there in 10th place. Kevin Harvick, like I said, 9th place. Stewart-Haas Racing, they really got to start turning things around. I love Stewart-Haas Racing. Harvick was the driver I went to after Gordon retired. But, man, they really needed to turn things around, because Harvick basically carried the team to the 9th place finish. It wasn't the car. I don't know if it's lack of practice, because like last year we didn't have practice and they were strong. I don't know what quite changed. I know I've heard from his crew chief and multiple interviews that NASCAR made a couple rule changes during the off season that affected some type of aerodynamics for the cars. So maybe that's it, but that's huge, and everyone else is still running strong. So I really would love to see Stewart-Haas Racing get in there so we could have like 4 or 5 teams really running strong in the Cup Series. That is my hope for the remainder of this season. I hope they can turn things around, especially heading into Richmond next week. Ryan Blaney comes home 11th. If it was not for that pit stop, I believe Ryan Blaney would have had something for him. Again, he had a long run car, so it's hard to tell exactly where he might have finished, but 11th place, he started at the rear and came back up to 11th, so that's really good. Matty D finishes 12th. This is a run Matty D needed. DiBenedetto needed this run. He has had so much bad luck that it was good to see him run 12th. And some notable finish: Brad Keselowski and Alex Bowman finished 33rd and 34th. They were involved in that 15 car pileup. Both of those cars were running strong. Bowman more than Brad, but ultimately, because of that 15 car pileup, Bowman having to pit the lap before, during that caution and all, put him back in that hornet's nest, and he really, it was the nail in the coffin for their day. I talk about these races every week. I give this race a good 8 out of 10. It was a really great Martinsville race. There was a lot of here and there, coming and going. It was fantastic. It did feel really long, especially after that red flag. It was like, oh geez, we still have 120 laps left. But ultimately, it was a good race. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the race. Join our Discord. It's the best little hub for us to come and interact and talk about the race and things to come. I want to know who your favorite driver is. Hit that subscribe button if you want to join the conversation for next week at Richmond. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And like always, I will see you in the next one. Later.